are you able to give like a bit of an overview on that and sort of your motivation for writing the book?
So the book's out on the 29th. So it's available on pre-sale now on called Taking Care of Business After the Podcast. It's out on the 29th of April. It's in Waterstones and Amazon at the moment. So it's on pre-sale now. I originally started writing the book on the same line as doing the podcast, to be honest. It was just about sharing my experience, but doing the podcast, I think, has made the book a lot better because I'm able to bring in areas from the first series, because the book was kind of finalised at the end of last year. So it's mainly stories from the first series. A couple have sneaked in the first 2 podcasts, I think, from this series. But so that, I think, has added more depth and better than just my story. I started writing it just because, similar reason for doing the podcast, I felt like there was a story to tell. I also felt like at the time, and it's interesting because it's come up this week, I don't know if you've seen it, but I'm not going to say who the agency is, but I also felt that social media was portraying an image of business that was bollocks, really. I felt like it was just portraying a very one-sided, positive reflection of what it's like to be a business owner, and it's amazing. It's amazing to be a business owner, but it's certainly not one-sided and positive. And I felt like social media was full of that fake news that everybody's talking about, so that was starting to annoy me. And I felt like it doesn't do any favours to anybody setting up a business, because all it's telling you about is how fantastic and how successful it is. And I'm not going to mention who the agency are, but somebody's put a post up on LinkedIn just this week where an agency went out there in Manchester, won an award, went out all over social, but they'd actually gone into liquidation a week earlier. And that, it's each to their own if that agency decides that's how they should do things. But that is like an extreme version of portraying success.
Something that's not.
When actually you sign liquidation papers a week earlier. And I think that's just one example, but I've seen it out there this week. It's just one example of, I think, what many people are doing. So on my social, I try to be as close to the truth, as genuine, as close to it as you can get. And I felt like a lot of people weren't doing it, so I wanted to get to the crux of it. I felt like Sedulo was becoming what I class as semi-successful. So I wanted to talk about each journey while it was all very raw, because I read a lot of the other books that are out there, and they tend to be when people are kind of long in the tooth. So this book is like, we're semi-successful, quite successful now, but it's pretty new to us, all this. This is the pain while I still remember it.
Yeah, there's still issues coming up every day and things like that you have to deal with.
Even while I've wrote the book, I started writing the book last April, so it took about a year to write it. And I started writing it because we was opening our London office, and I was just going to London. You can never get Wi-Fi. I was getting fed up with spending 2 hours on the train, 2 hours back. So I thought, I've got to do something with this time. So that's how I originally started to write it. And then as the book's progressed, like, my mindset has changed like 4 or 5 times in that time. Because there was a point where everything was going fantastic for Sedulo, and then there was a point where I decided, let's open in Leeds. And that's took all our cash. So then it was like, fuck, I've just wrote about everything's like going so well, and now I need to, it's not going so well. And then it would be a period of, actually we got that bump, and then it's like, thank God for that, everything's cool again now. It's back to when I started writing the book. And then it'd get to Christmas time, and then everyone would shut down, and then cash would get shut. I'd be like, fuck, we're back in, there's a bump in the road again. So it's interesting, even as I've written it, and I've tried to talk in the book about ups and downs.
It's very candid all the way through, I think, isn't it?
I think it's difficult. I've never written a book before, so I've just had to, and I didn't get a ghostwriter because I just wanted to. I just wanted it to be as authentic as I could possibly make it. And whether or not that means it's a good book or not, I don't know. But because I didn't get a ghostwriter to write it, I did get an editor, Martin Morrison, who helped me with it afterwards. But other than that, it's just all pretty much come from within, really, which is how I wanted the book to be, because it does say when I've messed up, it does say when things have gone well, I think there is some technical stuff in there which should help people.
Yeah. Well, that's the other thing. It's sort of the way that it's written. You've sort of tried to pull out a few sort of key principles and lessons that you think would help people that are in a different stage, maybe that you've really, and then you've sort of illustrated those with examples or stories or something from your own or other people's stories.
I didn't want it to be an autobiography because I don't think my story's worth reading, if I'm honest with you, from that perspective. But it kind of had to be like a semi-one.
Mm-hmm.
So it is like a semi-autobiography where I'm just talking about my journey. And I'm fortunate that I'm able to bring clients or people from the podcast stories in, with their permission, of course, bring them into the book. So I think it just gives it, in certain areas, a more rounded version than just mine.
Absolutely, and it does provide sort of like a wider breadth of sort of knowledge really as well. So